Good morning, everyone. My name is Alexei Oduber. I am the Managing Director of GAC Panama, and I would like to thank you all for participating on today's webinar. The purpose of the webinar is to share with you some of the latest changes and events at the Panama Canal, which has now given a much better perspective on transits for many of the vessels that are you operating. The reason for this webinar came about during visits that we had with several of you, and also through some messages that we received through our email on our operations team regarding options for booking early. So we will begin shortly. It will be a 20-minute presentation. So we will go through the different steps. The contents primarily will be these. First will be the water levels at the Panama Canal. This is very important because it gives you an update on how the canal is doing for the transits and how we're seeing opportunities for facing into the upcoming winter for Panama. We also will be, we will also be looking at the underutilized booking slots of the Panama Canal, the availability of them, and also the current situation with some of the delays that we're having. I'll show you exactly how's everything going, and we will share the scenario of one or two events that are currently making important transit opportunities. On the water levels of the Panama Canal, the first I would like to update you with is the fact that the canal is doing very well. You see on this information that was printed this week on the latest levels of Gatun Lake. If you remember last year at this time, the information was not this optimistic. So this is good news for everyone. You see the opportunities with the lake level at 87 feet, which is fantastic. And it is important because on the last 5 years, which is the information that I put at the bottom now, you see the average on the first months from left to right, January through December. And particularly the month that we're in of March, the average for the last 5 months was 81 feet in 2003 or to 2020, 85 feet in 2021, 85 feet in 2022, and so forth. We are above the average of the last 5 years. So this is great news. This will share with you this information so you feel more comfortable about the outcome of the water at the Panama Canal. We are finishing our dry season and beginning our winter now. The underutilization of the Panama Canal slots. I prepared this information and it gives you from left to right the last 15 months of the Panama Canal. What's important to see here is that we have September, October, November, and December, the months here on the left of your screen. You see how they are on negative. That means that there were more people wanting slots than those that were available. So that was a situation in which a lot of people wanting to. Since January of 2024 to now, we're seeing the opposite. Many of the slots that could be used for transit have not been used for transit. As you can see in blue, on January, the first blue on the left, one slot. These are average unused canal slots for every day. These are every day. And in this area is where we're seeing most of the subutilization or underutilization of slots. So what does this mean currently? That there are 3 slots currently available every day on average for the last 12 months. This is a different scenario than what we had in 2024. And it's important for the planning purposes because this means the canal is looking to have this. I will go into the next slide on how they're going into for the different slots and the opportunities. This slide is a little confusing, but it's important for you to see the information for the last 15 months. This is the percentage of utilization of the slots. What does this mean? This means that of the people and of the operators, the vessels that wanted to book a slot, an important percentage were not booked. The first slide was specifically regarding slots. This is booking slots. So this is even another positive information because it gives you the opportunity to book under either period one or period two, which we'll go into detail. On the blue line, these are for the regular Panamax vessels. Those are vessels with a beam of less than 91 feet. On the orange, and even with more flexibility, you see the supers, or they're formerly known as Panamax vessels. These vessels, so we're seeing months such as in July or August, 70% of the book slots being used only. So there's a great deal of availability still for the Panama Canal. So what is happening now? Vessels are being able to, and we are seeing this every day to all of you. We're seeing vessels that are able to book even with a high customer ranking. I know that's a question that many of the customers that we have seen have asked us, hey, what's going on with the canal? Will we be able to now have more options, more opportunities? And the answer is yes. Even vessels with a high customer ranking are able to enter the booking and get their slots, even without auction. And this is important because in the past we have seen many opportunities, but of course they were subject to the auction. The auction, as you remember, requires you to bid a number that has to be competitive with other of the players and participants of the auction. This could lead to very expensive spaces. Now we're seeing the opposite. We're seeing the availability of them. Why is this? One, the canal has enough water. Two, there are spaces not being utilized. And three, the booking slots are remaining unused. So these are great news that will allow us to see opportunities. And I wanted to share one that we did with a recently a customer of ours on transiting the Panama Canal. And this was specifically on how well or how open and available are the booking slots on period one or period two. This was a Panamax vessel that sailed from Japan. And I'm going to read it out just so we can have it for the recording that will be made available at the end as well. The vessel had an ETA of February the 12th and required us to do the booking. We looked into it as we normally do. We take the email, we start going through the different options, and we found there were several on this first come, first served basis available for you. We told the customer that there was one available on period number two. Period number two is 14 days prior to arrival for 14 February at the minimum for $15,000. We explained this to the customer and we successfully booked the vessel for February 14. Granted, this was 2 days after the arrival and the customer ranking was higher than 250. So they knew that should they require to compete with other players, they would not have been successful. So this was already a very important moment. The vessel began its journey, and on the way, it did encounter a bit of a rough seas. So he arrived on February 13th, 1 day after the ETA, but still within the booking window. As you remember, the ETA that you give the Panama Canal is firm, and the booking window, it depends on when you actually booked. So we had a 2 day flexibility or cushion, if you would, for it. So the vessel arrived on February the 13th, transited without any problems on the 14th. So the opportunity of book the vessel for period number two gives back this certainty that the canal is looking to have. The canal wants to continue to push and promote the options of certainty for transit. And we're finding out this important statistic at the bottom that 55% of our customers on Panamax booked vessels are made between period one and period two. This is very important because we're seeing with it the opportunity to book without competition and without auction. This is on first come, first served basis. So let's look at the next case. This is the second case that we have for opportunities. And we're seeing here the effects, positive effects of the transit advancements fee. This vessel booked much earlier, 90 days prior to transit on period number one. So the customer was a bit concerned on the time gap, but we informed them the opportunity of the transit advancement fee. The transit advancement fee gives you from subject to canal convenience from 2 to 10 days. So it gives you even more flexibility when you arrive. They may push you forward and it only costs $5,000 lump sum. This particular vessel had a day hire of $16,000, and they were able to come in, and they had a little more flexibility. So they came without any problem. They arrived, and we able to advance the vessel 2 days for $5,000. So they save 2 days of hire. They have more flexibility with the fuel, and it allowed a little more operational flexibility also in arriving. We're seeing this, ladies and gentlemen, for 50% of the vessels that we have been offered the transit advancement, they have accepted it. So the canal is open to encourage this because they need the slots in order to put out forward. So what is the canal doing? And what do we need to do now? As soon as you are even thinking or planning of the possibility of transiting the canal, please do contact us right away. I'll give you our email address at the end. Uh, Give us the opportunity to start looking and exploring for these options. There's a very high likelihood, and we've seen this statistically speaking, over 55%, that you will be able to book on the period one or period number two. So this is great news. You will be able to get this booking without any additional cost at the minimum. Consider all between the booking options and the available dates. I know that if the logic dictates, Alexei, I need to transit on this particular day. I don't want a day after. I want this date. But we have to keep in mind the flexibility of the transit advancement fee and the fact that sometimes this will come into play, especially with the booking on period number one for 90 days prior. And the transit advancements fee is always available. We have to wait to see whether the canal will confirm it, but we can request it for you. So what can we do now? We are willing to listen to you. Now we need the opportunity, and this is our email address on what we're doing, what the opportunities are for transit. The water situation in Panama will maintain as it is, and it may even be better for you. Why I'm saying this? We are seeing days such as today, which are the end of the summer for Panama. Panama's summer or non-rainy season begins in January and it ends approximately March, late March, beginning of April. So these are the last days of the summer, and we already seen the lake levels where they are. So this gives great options for the water to continue to accumulate at the Panama Canal during our winter, and it will give more flexibility. We have a meeting with the Panama Canal, a quarterly meeting coming up in 2 weeks, and we will bring forward this information. I'm leaving this here for you to reach out to operations.panama@gac.com so you will be able to contact us should you need anything, any options, any opportunities, anything that you may need, we'll be there to provide for you. Please do reach out as early as you want. You may think, look, it's too early, Alexei. I don't want to give so much information. I don't know much. That is okay. We've seen many of the vessels that plans change. You also have the option of going for maybe swapping or substitution should your fleet situation allow it. This concludes our webinar for today. I'm very grateful to all of you that participated. Please stay in touch with us through our social media channels. We'll be reaching back out to you, and this recording will be made available to those that participated today. So thank you all and have a good day.